It's Thursday, May 5th, day 48. Just checked out of Dancing Bear, walking out of Damascus, and headed back to the trail. It's always kind of a lonely feeling. Every morning's like the first day of school, it feels like. Just past Greg Morton from Greg Morton Outdoors. He was trying to upload last night's interview. His service at Crazy Larry's wasn't as good as mine at Dancing Bear. And he's got more of a low key. He'll get to the trail when he gets to the trail approach. Thanks again for the interview yesterday, Greg. And big weekend. My daughter's graduating Saturday. Congratulations again for her 4th graduation. From various institutions on her way up the chain. She's going into nurse practitioning, medicine. And it's Mother's Day weekend. So more on that as the days go by if I survive. Gonna be a warm one. So as I'm climbing out of Damascus, I'm deliberately taking the climb slow, and instead of thinking about the top and forcing mileage, I'm just walking and thinking. And it got me thinking about a metamorphosis. And not the trail changes you, and I'm not sure about any of that yet, but I started thinking of the novel Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka, who my channel is sort of in honor of or named after. And in that book, Metamorphosis, Joseph K., the main character, finds himself waking up in his room in his bed, transformed into a beetle. And it's been a while since I read it, but the theme is, he was kind of trapped in his body, and everything that was going on around him, he was not really in control of. The people, the things of the time, the issues. And he spent the novel pretty much stuck as a beetle, as a third-party observer, kind of commenting on, allegory for being kind of out of control, or not in control of their surroundings or people, places, or things, and kind of being an outside observer. A similar theme in his book, The Trial, that was pretty much, he was on trial the entire novel for a crime he did not commit or was aware of. Wasn't even sure why he was on trial. And I think that nihilistic, paranoid feeling is really not nihilism or paranoid. It's kind of a statement of reality, an awareness that a lot of people just choose not to engage in because it's mind fucking, it's too heavy. Take life one day at a time. But that's a theme in a lot of Kafka's novels, and if you understand his mindset, when you read it, you don't get depressed or feel like this is bringing you down. You feel like you're not alone. And before I even heard of Kafka, I used to write a lot in high school, and I was compared to him. I mean, reading Catcher in the Rye might have influenced me a little bit, but I've always had that mentality that Kafka has. Now, Dostoevsky and Hermann Hesse took it to a different level. They, you know, they were talking about all about the same time period, late 1800s, early 1900s. Dostoevsky, Herman Hesse, same kind of themes, but they introduced characters that were heavily spiritual. If you've ever read any Dostoevsky's book or you haven't, I'd recommend Crime and Punishment first. It's a thick, heavy read, but it's one of those books that made me feel not alone. But yeah, that heavy spirituality kicks in with those types of authors. And you start to see the beginnings of a new theme called existentialism that Jean-Paul Sartre kind of took off with, but it was already in formation through a lot of other writers and philosophers. You know, you go Wikipedia it and everybody will take claim for it. But I've always considered myself an existentialist. For, you know, I've read books on, when I was younger and trying to find myself, I read all kinds of books on all kinds of religions to see what made sense, and existentialism kind of made sense for me, and that's really a sense of personal responsibility. You inherently kind of know good for evil, and you inherently are self-regulating, and you inherently make the right choices for yourself and those around you, almost as a responsibility or courtesy or understanding of, you know, human responsibility. And call it what you will, most people are like that. But yeah, existentialism, you know, it's kind of, when you're an existentialist, you kind of cast off organized religions and you have a personal spirituality. You don't need to be guided. It's inside of you, and you don't have to call it a religion or a sect or a cult. It's personal. It's personally guided connection, and not to sound lofty or conceited or arrogant, but kind of like that. I kind of like being in that mindset, not relying on what other people define for you as the truth. You know, at some point you have to use your own eyes, and there's a lot of bullshit flying around, not just these last couple years, but forever. And you know, you gotta trust yourself sometimes, and you gotta work on yourself. I don't know. That's what I was thinking about climbing this fucking mountain. While we're on the topic, to be completely honest, one of the things I feel going on out here is I feel a magnetic pull back to my like quiet introverted self, where I pretty much avoided all people and hid under the bed when company came over. My mother always said I was a perceptive child and thought it was kind of funny, some of the things I would think and say. And later on in life, thought of it as being an old soul. Yeah, I don't know what it was. Ever since I was a kid, I shied away from groups and community, and even though my parents dragged me to church every Sunday and I went, I was always uncomfortable with it. I don't know what it was. I always, you know, it could just have been shyness, but you know, and I'm not this independent thinker who's like, you know, screw society, I'm a rebel. It's just like I was always very uncomfortable with groupthink and group activities, and you know, someone's in charge of the group, someone's making decisions, everybody's a contributor, and I don't know. There's a real danger in letting other people make decisions for you, and it's a struggle for me because I'm limited in intelligence to an extreme degree and skills. So no matter what quest I seek, I always get halfway there and start sucking at it. You know, music, writing, YouTube, engineering, whatever. I'm not capable of genius. I'm more of a generalist, but there's that drive to kind of understand things so that I can make my own educated decision and not fall into the trap of someone else making a terrible decision for you. And that can leave you on a windy edge if you get in a situation where you can't live in nature as a hermit for long. I mean, you could, but you need community, you need hands, you need people working, you need strength, you need numbers. But just shit I'm thinking about on this sweaty human trail. I'll stop preaching for a while or sharing too many thoughts. I don't want to scare away my audience. So I've been seeing those things since the beginning of my trip. It's called bear corn, and it has several other names. You can Google it. Apparently the animals of the forest eat it, and apparently for humans there's some medicinal qualities. That would be this year, and those would probably be left over from last year, the dark ones. Just thought I'd point that out because they've been scattered around the forest floor since the beginning, and I can't recall having ever seen them. They're associated with oak, I guess. I'm starting to see how the green tunnel can really get into you psychologically, because when you get a peek of the sun, and here it is only spring, the leaves are out, everything's getting green, but when you see a peek of the sun, it's like realizing how dark and depressing it's been for the last hour and 1,000-foot climb. Yeah, this little fun place is called Stagnant Pond. One of those little bass over there too. I like to put my fishing pole in there. I don't think she's as stagnant as they say. Oh. I started off in a relatively decent mood today. 1,000-foot climb and like a 1,500-foot climb. A couple pointless ups and downs. My Achilles started raging and started asking myself those same old questions about how old this is getting. So I put the camera away. I'm at about 11 something from Dancing Bear. I left the highway at like 9:30 this morning, but it was another mile back to Dancing Bear through town. I think I'm going to Over Mountain Shelter. Water's a struggle up here. I carried 3 bottles and almost done. I should be drinking more. Wasn't incredibly hot, but I feel thirsty. I ate all the food that I normally bring that lasts to camp. It was all gone by 1:30. And I didn't feel like stopping and taking my pack off because I just stiffen up. So, with only 4 or 5 more miles to go to shelter, if that's where I stop, I'll eat there. God, I'm feeling down. Well, with 3 miles to go to Lost Mountain Shelter, I think I might have mistakenly said Over Mountain Shelter. I'm staying at Lost Mountain Shelter, assuming there's water there. I'm gambling and not watering up before that final climb. And I was just thinking, I have a feeling I'm missing a nice celebratory work happy hour this evening. And those back home will know what I mean if they're watching at all. And I'm feeling a bit verklempt. A little bit of FOMO going on. And there's no PBRs at my tent tonight, so that's depressing. All right, I just popped out on to this portion of the Appalachian Trail that runs along with the Virginia Creeper Trail. And although I haven't seen many, Virginia Creeper is a plant that pops up around our yards like a creeping vine. But anyway, I guess you can rent bikes in town and they drop you off at the top of the Creeper Trail and you pretty much coast all the way back to town. There's very little pedaling. So a group of those hunyaks just went by. I don't know if that was a bridge of some kind or some kind of building. The retaining wall. So I got some pretty easy walking for about 2/10 of a mile, and then it's a climb to Lost Mountain Shelter. I should have stopped and ate something. Getting lazy. What a country. So I'm a mile from the shelter, Lost Mountain Shelter, and I've got no water. And the fact that that's running really well and the fact that Far Out said as of 2 or 3 days ago, the pipe spring at the shelter was flowing well. I've rolled the dice and decided not to unpack and waste time and carry water up. Worst comes to worst, I'll just keep hiking till another water source comes along. It's only a little after 4. It'll be 16 miles when I get there. So there's still daylight, even though I feel a little bit thirsty, dehydrated. But I'm banking on the water at the shelter. To those of you who replied on my channel and in person, yes, that is May apple. Thanks for the tip. Apparently a fruit grows on the bottom of it, and certain animals eat it at certain stages depending on the animal. So yeah, thanks for the tip. I looked into it a little bit. Still haven't seen any ramps, and I got some questions about the fiddlehead fern I pointed out to you the other day. I might have looked too quick, but these are all farther along now, so it's hard. But apparently the fiddlehead fern, or the ostrich fern, has a center rib that looks a lot like a celery stalk. It's like hollow, concave, sort of. And I don't remember looking at that, so I don't know for sure if it was. The brown papery covering might not have been enough, and I haven't found any like that today. They're all kind of grown up, so I don't know if that celery stalk dissipates over time and fills in, or I was just wrong. So I don't know. Just wanted to point that out. Hello Virginia. Back to a convenient bear box. And not a bad looking shelter either, even though I'm not staying in it. Lost Mountain Shelter, looks nice. Solid. And a privy. And then my tent through that hole. All right, 16 miles. I guzzled that Gatorade bottle full. I filled it up, and I got a full knock. So after I cook dinner, I usually leave that Gatorade bottle empty at the beginning of the morning. But after I cook dinner, I'm gonna have enough water here to fill my 2 750 milliliter bottles, and that again, because I don't want to leave camp with less than 3 bottles of water given these conditions.